Okay, so Kat and I decided we were going to sit and, I guess, collaboratively kind of build a cryptocurrency primer in a way. Um, and I would kind of lay some groundwork, and then Kat will lead with some questions, and then I think we'll just kind of flow into whatever conversation emerges from that.
Sounds good.
Okay, so starting really basic. How do you feel about the three terms and like what the distinctions are between Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrency?
I think I understand what those are. So blockchain is the underlying, I don't know if you call it technology, but
Hmm.
how it all, what cryptocurrency sits on. And then Bitcoin is a specific kind of cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
yeah, that's
Is
exactly
there a
right.
better way of explaining
Yeah,
that?
that's pretty much exactly it. I mean, I could add a helpful metaphor, which is to say, but I think you have the concept exactly. But the metaphor is to say that um, blockchain is an invention, like you said, it's a technology. Blockchain is kind of like the engine, like an internal combustion engine, and then Bitcoin is a particular car, um, and cryptocurrency is all the cars, or maybe even all the cars and planes and everything that uses engines.
Mm,
But they all rely on the invention called the blockchain, which you can build different ways too, but they're all blockchains, you know. So
yep.
yeah, yep, that's pretty good. Okay. Have you heard of, so I work a lot on Ethereum, which, have you heard this term, Ethereum?
Yeah. So just so you know, I recently just bought some crypto just so
Okay.
I got Ethereum, XRP, which is what Ripple, and Bitcoin, just so I could have, like a horse in the race, like just so I could sort of see how things move a little bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I don't understand, like, it seems that some of these cryptocurrencies are tied to each other, like tethered or something. I don't understand that. I
Hmm.
don't understand what other, like, really the differences so much. I understand there's like capitalization and stuff like that. Yeah, I just sort of bought some so I could watch it. So I
Okay.
have some Ethereum.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do you know anything about like Ethereum, or why it's it's the second most popular? Do you know anything about the differences for it?
Nope, not at all.
Okay. So that it's my favorite. Well, yeah, it's my favorite right now because it basically its big claim to fame is it does smart contracts. And so if Bitcoin, you could think of Bitcoin as a world computer, but all it does is sends money. So it's a virtual computer that's on all over the world. We can all log on to it essentially and send money around, but that's all we can do. Ethereum takes that, and you can still send money, but you also can. Any developer can put up simple programs, and then anybody onto this world computer, and these programs can actually handle money. They can receive money and send it out, and also do anything else a program could do, like keep track of users and do basic logic. And then anyone can, you can either send money on Ethereum, but you can also send money to one of these contracts or give it a simple command. And again, they're called smart contracts, but that's more of a term that's reflecting their expected use. You would use them in place of a legal contract, so we would call them a smart contract. But what they actually are is really nothing more than just a computer program that lives on an address. So if I'm going to send you Ethereum, you would have an address. But if I want to send money or Ether to a smart contract, it would also have an address. There's no one that controls that address. All it will ever do is just run its code, and some parts of that code are triggered when it receives money. Some parts of it are triggered when maybe you send it a particular command. Oh, you're muted.
The first thing that comes to mind is like escrow, like funds and escrow. Is that something
Yep.
that
Yeah, you could
Ether
build
can
that
do?
on a smart contract. So there's lots of different ways you could do it. But yeah, one example would be if you and I want to trade, and then but we don't trust each other, we could have somebody else be a third party, and then we could all enter into a smart contract where the smart contract knows I'm maybe the buyer and you're the seller, and then this other person is the arbiter. We would all have special roles. Somebody would have to develop this smart contract, of course, and there's probably, I'm sure that there are smart contracts that do this. Um, but yeah, and then we'd all, the money would actually, during the transaction, would be in the smart contract. So it won't be in my wallet or your wallet or somebody else's wallet. It'll be in the smart contract itself. And then typically we'd have like a web interface. So it'll be like a web page you go to, that hooks up with there's a wallet called MetaMask. It's just a browser add-on. It just holds your cryptocurrency and it makes it easier to interact with these smart contracts. Anyway, you go to this website, and just like if it was a regular server, it would have a certain interface. It would maybe show you how much money is in it, what stage it's in, and maybe there'd be some chat functionality. It all depends on what the smart contract allows, and then also what was built into the web interface. So, and that whole system, and then is just called a DApp, for decentralized app, the smart contract in the front end. So we would use a DApp, which at the core is just a smart contract.
And who builds the DApp? And can you give me an example of an application?
Yeah. So, well, actually, my job is to build these dApps from the ground up. So I design them from the beginning, and then I design the smart contract, and then I build the front end. It could be anyone with the skills. It's a programming job. You program the smart contracts, which takes maybe 10% of the time once you have the design, and then maybe 90% is actually building the front end, the web UX. That just takes more work. But anyone can build them, and anyone who has Ether can pay to basically install the script onto Ethereum, and then that will be available forever for anyone to use, unless the code specifically has some kind of self-destruct function, but most of them don't.
So you don't have to give me an example from your work specifically, but give me can you give me a theoretical example of someone who might pay for it, whether it's a brand or an individual?
Sure, yeah. So one simple example would be, let's say that you want to invest in Ether, which is the coin of Ethereum, but you don't actually trust yourself to hold on to it long enough. So you want to actually lock it away from yourself. You can build a smart contract that will accept your money, and it will never give it to anyone else except for you, but it won't give it to you until 6 months have gone by. That would be a pretty simple one to program. In fact, I think the code of that contract would probably, well, first of all, I know it's already built. Somebody's built that, but I would also say that it would be less than a page of code. If you were to look at the code, you could see it, the whole code of that smart contract without scrolling. And then once the contract is uploaded, you can either the programmer will have also built the front end, or there's also tools that let you interact with any smart contract. It just gets a little complicated because it doesn't really know what the contract is for. So sometimes it's a little confusing on when you're putting the numbers into the actual, to make the actual transaction. But anyway, that would be one example. Another example that I share when I'm explaining this is like a splitter contract. I don't really know when you'd use this, but just as an example, you could build a contract that has me and you as recipients, 50-50. And anytime it gets money, it immediately sends the money half to you and half to me. And again, once you've built that, it will never change. So that might be useful if we were in a company together and maybe we were a part of a team, like me and you were on the team in this company, and we would say, here's our address. And the person who we give that to, they don't even care or know whether it's our account or a smart contract or whatever. But we know whenever any money gets sent there, it will be split to me and you, half and half. And that would actually allow me and you to work in a more trusted relationship, because the whole problem of like handling the money is solved for us on Ethereum.
Got it. Where does that account, this is probably a really basic question, but where does that account number, if you and I were splitting 50-50, there's that account number that somebody wants to send Ether to, where does that account number come from? Probably a really basic question, but
yeah. So when you upload the smart contract, when you deploy the smart contract, that would be the term. It gets the address. The address technically is hashed. I don't know if you know anything about hashing. Yeah. So it's a hashed.
A little bit.
Yeah, it's a hashed version of the code. And so I'll just say, for the benefit of whatever audience, hashing, you take any amount of data, and when you put it in, you get a random a random sequence of a certain length. It's always the same length, depending on the hash function you use. But if you look at any Ethereum address, they're always the same length. And so if you use the same hashing algorithm, you'll get that same length. And the same data, no matter how big, always hashes to the same hash. But you can never look at the hash and go back and get what the data was. So that's what hashing is. So you take the contract code, it first gets compiled, but it's still essentially code. And then the hash of that combined with a few other things ends up being the smart contract address. So you can actually know what your address of your smart contract will be even before you deploy it, if you understand enough about the system. So,
Okay.
but yeah.
Is there any consumer application where there is a smart contract being used currently that, you know, is wide, like that I could go to right now? I could type in a web address, and in order to complete a transaction, I would somehow be seeing the front end of an Ether contract or
Yes.
Ethereum contract, smart contract.
Let me just make sure I have the URL correct. So there's basically there's a sort of a savings app you can use. Okay, well, let me back up a little bit. There's a whole class of dApps. It's called DeFi, stands for decentralized finance, DeFi. And basically you can save money there. You can also you can take your Ether and put it up as collateral and then actually loan out additional cryptocurrency. I don't know if you've heard of the stablecoin DAI, D-A-I. So
even stablecoin, I don't know exactly is what that means. So
yeah. So I'm like
a guess.
Not sure which tangent to go on, but really quick, DAI is a stable coin, and it's one DAI always equals $1. So
got it.
And so if I
send tethered to
it's pegged would be
to a hard currency. Pegged to it.
Pegged. Yeah.
Pegged, that's right. Yeah. Pegged to a hard currency in the real world. Got it. Okay, so DAI is US dollar.
Yeah.
Pegged to the dollar.
And the way that peg works is actually through a set of smart contracts. And you can actually generate some of this DAI yourself. You take your Ether, you go to oasis.app, and you'd also need the MetaMask extension, which I mentioned earlier. And again, that's just a wallet that lives on your browser that lets your browser talk to smart contracts through the various dApp interfaces. But oasis.app is a dApp. You would go there and you would click connect to wallet, and then you would be able to see how much Ether you have, and then you would have the option to deposit your Ether into what they call a vault. And then now your Ether is in the smart contract, so it'll be out of your wallet, but you will see it in the interface. And then when you have that, you can actually take out, I think it's like a third, I don't know what the ratio is exactly, but with that collateral, you can essentially generate DAI. You can use it to, I don't know what the term is exactly. Well, borrow, here it says on the front page of the Oasis app. And so that's just one small example. And then DeFi does a lot of other things, which let you also make money on your collateral. So you can put money in and you'll get a steady, I mean, it's basically a savings account that's quite a bit more aggressive than traditional finance. Yeah. And DeFi itself is a really interesting phenomenon because it's a bunch of different smart contracts, or dApps, you could sort of say either way in this case, that are all interconnected, and it keeps growing quite organically. And maybe parts of it will fail because any developer can add to the stack. And if they put something in that has some kind of unforeseen economic attack or vulnerability, it can fail, and anything built on top of that will fail. But what's cool is if anything below that was built soundly will hold, because if I write a smart contract that develops some new kind of money or derivative or whatever, I set the rules. Nobody can break those rules. Now, if I make rules that have a bug in it, that can fail. But if I build rules and there is no bug in it, then I can let anyone else build whatever they want on top of it, and my contract will survive any kind of collapse of the systems on top of it. So what's cool about DeFi is that anybody can join the party. Any programmer can join the party and add on another system, and parts of it will probably fail as well. In fact, just the other day, one failed. I don't remember I think it was YAM. It like raised a bunch of money and then failed rather quickly. But the rest of DeFi stayed sound, which is pretty cool. it's a really exciting time right now because DeFi feels, like I said, organic, and it feels like it's evolving. And I don't know where to go exactly, but I really get the strong sense that it's what will grow into the end user consumer. I mean, there are end users currently. It's just not people on the street, but I think that's what will grow into the application that people on the street will be using and excited about.
Yeah, that's sort of my big question is when does all this move as things do from the domain purely of programmers to someone like me who's not a programmer but is interested? Like
Yeah.
what are the avenues that, I mean, there's obviously things like Coinbase, that are super accessible and understandable, and mostly, I mean, even that sometimes I'm like, I don't, like, when do I trade? I'm like, should I be trading? I don't even know why I have it. I just,
Yeah.
So it's still a little bit of a mystery to
Yeah.
me. So I'm, and yeah, then you get into the, like, basically loaning, financing stuff of it. And then my mind just sort of goes,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's cool.
It is. So I would say there's a few different things we can go on. I mean, one is
Okay.
the question of trading. Should you trade? I would say no, unless you want to make it your job. And then I would even caution against the job because I think trading as a lifestyle just doesn't seem healthy to me. I don't want to do it. I've never really done it because you kind of, at any moment you might be losing money, and it just seems like a neurotic kind of lifestyle. Now, what I do suggest is investing, and trading and investing mechanically is pretty much the same thing. You move your money into cryptocurrency and you occasionally move. And so both that could describe both trading and investing. The difference is, in investing, you're not really looking at the chart and trying to sort of say, oh, here's the low point, I'm going to buy here because I think it's going to go high, and then I'm going to sell here. Investing is more about, you see technology you like, and I would recommend Ethereum. You put money in, and then you wait until the value that you sort of predict will happen is realized, and the value in terms of end user value. So that would be what I would strongly suggest. And it's a long game for sure. And you have to sort of understand that if you put money in today, it might be less in a month or a year, and it's going to be a roller coaster ride. And I guess another piece of advice I sort of add on to that is just don't pay attention to the price. Don't get, because it's easy to get obsessed about the price and check it every day. But just make the decision to buy the Ether and hold it for a long time. And unless some news comes out that something's fundamentally broken with Ethereum, but it's been running for a long time. And I think it's here to stay. But so yeah, I would say don't trade unless you want to make it your day job, and then even then that takes quite a long time to get good at, because there's a lot of people who make money off people making bad trading decisions. That's how, it's in fact how you make money trading, is you outsmart other people. So yeah.
I mean, I was thinking like it's like day trading, right? In the traditional stock market.
Like it's like day trading. You go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Except 24 hours. Like
Exactly.
the market doesn't close.
Yeah, and there's no regulations, and you could lose all your money, and no one's gonna shed much of a tear for you. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Welcome to the Wild West. And and that's what's exciting about cryptocurrency. It will stay Wild West. I mean, I think there will be developments that make crypto easier to use and safer in some ways, because there's certain dangers in crypto that we definitely want to get rid of. For example, if you, where is your crypto right now? Is it still on Coinbase?
Yeah, it's on Coinbase, and even that I don't understand. Like, so I have a wallet, right?
Yeah.
I have Coinbase at the app Coinbase, and I have the wallet, Coinbase wallet app. And in order to transfer it from Coinbase to wallet, which I'm not even sure why I need to, unless I wanted to buy something or give it, send it to somebody, I suppose. They, have to pay a mining fee, and it's not much, but I'm sort of like, well, what's the point of having it in my wallet?
Yeah.
It still fluctuates the same in the wallet, right?
Yes. So the reason you'd want to move it from your Coinbase account to your wallet, I'll tell you it, but first I'll say it's actually, I don't think it's true anymore. I don't think it's relevant anymore. But what you used to hear and used to be wise was that as long as you have money on an exchange, the exchange it's not really your cryptocurrency, not really. I mean, maybe legally, but legality doesn't really have much of a difference. Coinbase has the money, and Coinbase could run off with the money. But the thing that's changed is that, first of all, Coinbase has been around so long, it's really hard to imagine them actually doing that. And also they are, I think, legally guaranteed that even in the event of a hack, there's some way in which they'll make their customers whole. So that's actually not a bad option anymore. Back when all the exchanges were new and none of them were legally backed, and any one of them could just be planning a scam or get hacked, that was a bad idea. But I think Coinbase is actually pretty solid. So I would say it's probably fine to keep it in there. I mean, if you have large investment amounts, then you'd want to maybe start thinking about other options. But so that brings us to the other main option, which is to hold it yourself. And that gets to a wallet. So a wallet, just to get into the technicals a little bit, the wallet holds a private key. And have you heard this term?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So a private key, just for the audience, then is basically it's basically just a really big number. That's what it is. Functionally, it's like a password that your device or computer knows that you never have to know. And then another key difference between a private key and a password is that a password has to be sent to a server to be authenticated. A private key never has to be sent anywhere. It uses cryptography and some mathematics to sign something just like you'd sign a check. And so it's actually way more secure because your private key never leaves your device, unless your device is insecure somehow and you get hacked and stuff like that, or unless you lose the device and then you lose the key. That's another problem. And so that's what I was sort of, I guess what I was trying to get to for a while. That is a danger with crypto, is that if you move your stuff off of Coinbase and then you have it on your phone and you either don't back up the private key or you do, but you lose the backup as well, your crypto's gone forever and nobody can help you. And so that's just a danger of crypto that we certainly will move past. I actually know some people here in South Africa who are working on a social recovery wallet. And this is also a set of smart contracts where I can put crypto into this smart contract wallet. So I no longer actually have any private key because it's a smart contract where I'm the owner, but I assign guardians, which are my friends, 3 or 4 or 5 guardians. And then if I lose my phone, they can vote to basically move my crypto for me onto a new phone. Or if my phone is stolen, they can vote to lock the crypto. So you get a lot of the functionality of like a bank, essentially, that can help you recover your funds. But it's decentralized. It's all peer-to-peer, which is pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
so we don't have that yet. We're getting there, and I think that's the kind of, back to one of your first questions. You were asking, I think, sort of what are the routes to end user adoption, and I think that's one of the big barriers. On one hand, just UX. This stuff needs to be easier to use, although I think we're actually getting pretty good at that with the DeFi. DeFi is really getting some very sexy apps, but they're still assuming a user that I think sort of understands how crypto works. And then I think the other thing is like easy security, where you just don't have the risk of losing your private key anymore. And I think we're close to that, but we're not there yet. Yeah. And then on top of all that, you need a use case. What do people actually use it for? DeFi gets close to that because you can have savings accounts and you can take out loans. But when the use cases are all just about making more money, it's hard to get people interested in that, because the lower the profit that you make from this, the less interesting it is, and the higher the profit, the more suspect it is. So even if I actually sit and build an economic system that what a lot of these DeFi programs do is they micro loan out the money. That's a good way to think about it. So you do make money and the money is legitimately made. Or another thing you can do is you can take 2 tokens, put it into a system that provides liquidity. And when people trade, you make fees off the trading because you're sort of providing the base liquidity to do the trading. So those are both legitimate ways to make money. But it's hard to sell that to somebody as legitimate. So I don't know. I don't know how that stuff is going to evolve to get to the point where my mom wants to get the app, you know, where my mom sees her friend use an app in some way and she goes, oh, I have to have that. We will get there, but I don't know what it'll look like.
For somebody who is just interested in starting to learn more about this and wants to just do like I did and buy some Ether or Bitcoin or whatever, just to sort of be an observer and watch how it moves and start to experiment a little bit. What would you say is the first step? Like, is it Coinbase? Is it, what was the name of that browser based MetaMask? I mean, I don't know, that's a wallet, right? So I guess you probably don't. How do you start?
Yeah, well, buying crypto, you know, there's just not a lot to do right now unless you're a programmer or unless you want to, let's say, dig in deep and learn how to make money on these DeFi systems. But that would be something to do. I mean, so here's an example of one thing okay, I'll get back to that. Let me just first answer the question at a little bit more of a basic level.
Sure.
First step is buying crypto, which you've done. Another good step would be to get your Ether onto MetaMask, some of it, just a little bit, because then when a cool dApp does come out, you can go there on your browser and actually interact with it. So I could actually show you we have two tools that we've built. One of which is basically like a decentralized chat app. You could go there. Well, you'd also need DAI, unfortunately. So it's a bit of a pain, but you could get DAI and Ether on MetaMask because they both work on Ethereum. And then you could go and actually post a message onto Smoke Signals. I'll put the link. I'll share you the link, and I'll also put it in the show notes or the YouTube comments. I listen to too many podcasts, so I always say show notes. I don't have a podcast. So yeah, MetaMask would be a good next step. And then if you want to make money, I would say, the problem with this is that you still need to do quite a bit of research. It's not an easy thing to do, but just to say it anyway, you could provide liquidity and make money that way. You'd need to find the system to provide liquidity on. There's Uniswap and there's Balancer. I'll list those below. I should actually list for myself what I'm going to list. Just give me a second. Okay, yeah. So there's so my apps.
You've mentioned Oasis. You've mentioned DAI, MetaMask, Uniswap, Balancer.
Yes. Okay. But so then you could, if you see any two. So first of all, Ethereum, because it has smart contracts, anyone can build a token, basically a currency on Ethereum. And we've done that as well. We started a sale. We've been raising funds by selling our token called Fry, which again, I'll give to you, and that'll be in the YouTube as well. But a lot of the currencies you see are on Ethereum. And if you see any of these two currencies and you think that they will, as long as you can say, okay, they will sort of do roughly the same. If you can sort of look into the future and say one's not going to tank relative to the other, you can then provide liquidity for them. And every time there's a price movement, you make money on that price movement because you're providing some of the liquidity for all the trading action. And every trade gives you a fee. I don't know how much that fee is, but that would be one example of something you could do if for anyone who's kind of, let's say, if it sounds like a fun or engaging enough to like look at an economic system, you don't really even need to understand how to code. But if you can sort of understand the economic rules of a particular game and you think, okay, I can provide this liquidity and make money doing that. It's sort of a similar, I want to say it like feels similar to trading and who it might appeal to, but it's not, I don't know how to put it exactly. Trading, it's kind of a zero-sum game. If you're making money, someone else is losing money. And it's really hard to connect that work with something like you're providing value. I actually do suspect that traders do provide value, but it's a pretty hard argument to make, and you certainly won't really feel like you're providing value. And providing liquidity is just like one step up from that. I think it's a little better in all those dimensions. I mean, you are providing liquidity. So when people trade, you're literally charging people to use your stacks of cash. And so you sort of are providing this value. Yeah, I don't know. It just can't really put it into words. To me, it feels a little bit more sustainable or realistic or something than trading. But I can't
And
really pinpoint why.
where would you do that? Where would you, is that
that would be
like Uniswap or Balancer?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So
Okay.
I'll put those links down. And again, you'd need MetaMask, and you'd need to get whichever 2 tokens you want. Balancer actually lets you do 8 at once. So you can take 8 different tokens and put them all together. And then whenever there's trading across any of those, any combination of those 8, then you make a fee. And the only way you can lose now on that game is if one of the tokens tanks or goes way up. If one of the tokens goes way up, you would have been better off holding that token. Right. Or if it tanks, then you should never have even had the token in your pool at all. But as long as it returns to normal, then you've basically made money all the way down and all the way up, or all the way up and then all the way down. So it's I think you could sort of think of crypto as like almost like a self-perpetuating money machine. And now there's this new way to sort of attach your own, to kind of make profit on some of that too. But it's not a guarantee. There are failure scenarios in which you would have been better off, like I said, holding the given token or not even touching the token. Yeah.
Right. How do you evaluate new currencies, new cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Just you personally, like what do you look for? Yeah, I'm curious what you look for.
I don't spend a lot of time looking into them much more now, I guess, but I guess I do come to opinions on them. So I guess I kind of, I hear, I listen for what people are using. Like Uniswap or Balancer has a token, one of those two. And they're both good systems. And I'm not saying that because I've looked into them and looked at the code and read the white paper. I'm just saying that because I hear so much good things about them, and they are working, and they have been working for quite some time. So if one of those things has a token, you could buy the token, and a token is a lot like a share in a company. It's just that a token usually is attached to some project. So it's not a legal entity. It's more of a, well, it is an economic entity, but it's not a legal entity. It's like a company with its shares, you could sort of say, is a combination of a legal and an economic entity. And a crypto project, on a blockchain project with a token, is like, it's still an economic entity, but it's not a legal one anymore. It's a computer science one now, but it's still economic. And you still sort of, you can buy into if you think they're going to do good, buy their token. And if you think they're going to tank, sell their token, or even short their token. You can long and short tokens just like you can stocks. And unlike stocks, there's no barrier to entry. You don't need to have a bunch of money and be some rich businessman with 5 suits in his closet. You just be some regular guy with some cryptocurrency and throw into whatever sounds good. But then the other, I guess there is a barrier to entry, and that is, it's also technical right now, that you either need to be technical yourself, or you need to know somebody who you trust that says that they are technical and they understand these projects.
Yeah, it seems sort of impossible to evaluate from the outside at this point in the game.
Yeah, but you can, there's a few things you can do even without knowing anything. One would be to buy Bitcoin, because Bitcoin will never really be beaten at its own game, because its game has become, it's the simplest, most secure cryptocurrency, and it's the longest running. And nothing else can become the longest running one of those. And it's already it's already the simplest. So if you want to just put money in and wait for crypto utopia, which I do believe is coming, then you'll do very well to hold Bitcoin. So that's one thing you could do. I mean, if you just held 5 of the top cryptocurrencies, and if you periodically balance them, some of them might tank. But you'll.
What do you mean by balanced?
Oh, like let's say you bought 20% of the top 5 cryptos. Well, they'll, in a week or a month, you will no longer have 20%. You'll have like 30% of one because it went up, and then 10% of another because it went down. So then you would rebalance those. So then you get back to 20% by trading.
20% of each.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are programs that will do that for you, different services. Some of them are smart contract based and some of them aren't. Yeah, so that would be, but again, that's just investment advice.
Yeah.
Which
is, it's sort of interesting to see. I know it's sort of been wide ranging, but because we're covering a lot, right? Basically, like what is the ultimate, consumer output to all of this? We're talking about like, what is it actually? We're talking about investment, and then we're also talking about DeFi as a possible way to sort of play and possibly, earn something from it. But yeah, there's a lot. I mean, for a total newbie, would you, like, obviously you've got to buy something to begin with. What app do you like to send newbies to to purchase coin?
It depends on
cryptocurrency or whatever.
To purchase coin, I like that. It makes it sound like a drug. To purchase coin. Coinbase. Well, it depends on where you are. What you're talking about when you specifically want to buy, right?
Yeah. So if you're in the US,
Coinbase
is the one. Yeah.
And otherwise, it just depends on where you are, and you just have to do research. And I would just say go for the one that has lasted the longest and just seems professional. I mean, that's the best you can really do. And then you would just have to make your own decision as to when you want to take it off the exchange. If you just buy $10 worth because you just want to be exposed, like emotionally exposed to the price, you can leave it on the exchange. But if you're really starting to invest in it, you would want to probably take all or some of it off, depending on where you're moving it to and how good you feel about that. Let me just get something. So this is a ledger. This is a hardware wallet. So, oops.
I've heard about these. Yeah.
So has two buttons on top, and when I plug it in, there's an interface, and I'll put in my PIN. And it's just a really nice. It really combines security and convenience quite well. So you can plug this into your computer, and you can still use dApps with this. Actually interfaces with MetaMask, which then interfaces with the dApp. But it's really secure, and the private key never even leaves this. This actually signs the messages and sends it to your computer, which sends it out to the network. So, and for someone to get the private key out of this is actually impossible. Well, I won't say impossible, it's a strong word, but it's extremely secure. So if you were going to get a lot of money and really start investing in like life savings type stuff, I think these are like $50 or $100, something in that order. So you definitely want to get one of these, and then you can back up the private key of this, or it's 12 words, but it represents the private key. And then that way, even if I lose this, I can buy another one and initiate it with the same private key, and my money's still there. Anyway, yeah.
So you keep yours in an actual physical, like your wallet is an actual physical. What is that called?
Hardware wallet.
Hardware wallet. Okay.
But I keep, part of the strategy is you want to keep it in different places. So I keep a lot there. I keep some on MetaMask. When I get paid by Skulk, my business partner, he pays me in DAI actually. And so that goes to my MetaMask. And then most of that I then send to Coinbase and sell, because I still have a US, well, I don't even have a US bank account anymore, but I have TransferWise, which works with Coinbase. So that's how I get it on TransferWise, and then I can spend it on my credit card.
Got it.
And another use case of cryptocurrency is just that Skulk and I never actually had to figure out how do we get rands into US dollars. That never even was a relevant question for us, because we each knew separately how to get into and out of crypto. It's different solutions for each of us because we're nationals of different countries. But that is that's a legitimate use case of crypto. Is if you're already sort of entrenched in crypto, it never really matters what country you're in as far as paying somebody, as long as they're also into crypto. And I also I haven't yet paid tax. I'll just say that, and maybe one day I'll be asked to, and then I'll make my decisions accordingly. But ever since I moved all my savings are in crypto, is a good way to put it. Ever since that move, I've never had to pay tax. Also, given that I'm being paid essentially from a blockchain organization, which is really just Skulk at this point, that doesn't get taxed either. It's not like, when you get a paycheck in the States, your tax is already taken out. That also doesn't happen to me. So that's,
even if you're living abroad and you get a paycheck abroad, you're still paying taxes in the US. So
yeah. So I don't know, maybe one day some government or other will decide that I owe them money. And I will decide at that point whether I'm going to pay them the money. I can always say, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can always say, no, you can't touch me, because I got my own island now or something. It depends on where I'm at.
Hopefully in Estonia.
Yeah, hopefully. That's the dream. Yeah. Well, is this
yeah, I think I'm trying to think if I have any other questions. We sort of covered the DeFi thing is super interesting to me. Yeah, I learned about dApps, smart contracts.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Just gonna say again, it's all on Ethereum. And
yeah,
well, ask your question first. I just have one more thing to say on that.
I was just curious, what other cryptocurrencies, I guess, is that, other than Ethereum, do you think are interesting to hold?
Yeah, it's actually
for a while, just from an investment.
Yeah. So, well, there's two answers. Well, there's two ways I think about the question. I think smart contracts are really important because it basically allows you to build an app that has all the benefits of a blockchain system, which is it can't be shut down, it can't be hacked. It really solves a lot of trust issues, and it can handle money. Well, cryptocurrency anyway. But Ethereum right now is having scaling issues. So I told you earlier we have a sale that's selling our token, our Fry token, but it now costs, well, at the height of this crisis we're having now, that's been unfolding for about a week and a half or so, it cost $40 to get in and out. So if you want to buy any amount of our token, you'd have to pay $40 in transaction fees and that's because you are engaging with a smart contract, and the smart contract does a certain amount of computation. And so for you to actually start that and for it to finish, you need to essentially pay the world computer to do that processing. And what's been going on lately is that this Ethereum world computer has gotten popular enough to where there's only so much processing it can do in a given, let's say, minute. And for a long time, we were under that limit. And so any amount you paid, you could pay very little, and some miner, which is just a piece of the network, would pick it up, and it would be in their interest to pick it up. But now there's so much usage that you have what's called a healthy bidding market, and it's really good for Ethereum, but it's quite a disaster for certain dApp developers, because now their dApp is costing a lot of money. We had a trading, one of our two apps we built under Foundry, which is sort of our organization, where we've sold tokens for Foundry just to sort of connect all that together. One of these apps it was about trading with people in a trustless way. So it's kind of like escrow, what we were talking about earlier. And I don't want to get into all the rules about that now, but that might be an interesting subject. But just to open one of those trades, and not even to then join it as another person and complete it, just to open it cost over $100 in fees at the height of this. So the issue is scaling. You need to have a smart contract system that can handle more throughput, and it's actually a really difficult technical problem. So all of that's to say, if you can identify another blockchain, another cryptocurrency, I should say, that is a smart contract enabled cryptocurrency, and it scales a lot better than Ethereum, not like 10 times, but more like 100 or 1,000 times better, that would be a really good thing to buy. But then that's a difficult question, because to understand whether any given project is really going to deliver on that, you now need to understand how a smart contract system works. So that's going to be quite challenging. So that's one whole answer. Basically, if you can find the Ethereum killer, which is just anything that does basically what Ethereum does with smart contracts, but it does it way more scaled, that if you could have a crystal ball and know which one is going to do that, buy that, because that's going to eventually, people are going to move from Ethereum onto that. There's an Ethereum 2.0 coming out, and maybe it is Ethereum 2.0. I kind of doubt it. But even that's not going to be really a direct upgrade to Ethereum. It's going to be a new thing that people would still have to migrate to. Although I think they're going to share the token, the Ether token. I don't really know how that works. But that's one whole answer. If you can find a good smart contract system that scales. The other answer is if you can find any token on Ethereum that is powering a system that is useful. So one example is, I was talking about the DAI this whole time. DAI is as I said, you can go to this interface and basically put it in Ether and generate your own DAI, and then you can pay it back later to get your Ether back out. But there's another coin that is more like the share, more like the share type of token that actually runs that system. So DAI is run on a system called Maker, and if you buy the Maker token, you're basically buying shares in the system that is running DAI. Let me put it another
again.
way. Yeah, I'm going to put it another way. So there's a token called Maker. Okay, well, let me start over again. There's a system called Maker, which has a token, which is also called Maker. That's just like a token. That's a lot like a share. If you buy it and other people buy it, you've made money essentially. And what that system does is it generates DAI. It allows people to generate DAI, the stable coin. So it's the value it's providing is it provides stability. And it's doing it for over a year now, maybe even close to a year and a half. It's provided this stable coin called DAI. And that's useful. And so I don't really understand how the fees work exactly, but the fees get paid back to the Maker holders. So if you're holding this coin and DAI is being used a lot, you're actually making money. Even if nobody else buys or sells the Maker token, even if you don't make money because the price of it went up, you're making money on the fees of the system called DAI or called Maker. So
and where does one buy a token? Yeah, because that's the only thing that I'm a little fuzzy on is the system token. I mean, I get that buying a token is like you said, buying shares, but how does one acquire?
Yeah, so I'll put this link in the thing below too. But this actually touches on. So if you go to Kyber Swap, it actually runs KYBER and then swap. It actually runs on Uniswap. So remember I was saying that you can provide liquidity to these systems? Kyber Swap is like the other end. So you can go to Kyber Swap now with your Ether or your DAI or anything, and then you can say, okay, I want, and then they have just apparently infinite list of tokens because they're so open for anyone to make their own token and provide liquidity that you can go and, so that's where you buy any token that is on Ethereum. Technically, you're going to be buying and selling what are called ERC20 tokens. It's just a particular kind of smart contract that you call tokens, and they're very compatible in different ways. So any of these trading platforms will work with ERC20 tokens specifically, and MetaMask recognizes ERC20 tokens very easily, but it's really just a particular kind of smart contract. But that's where you'd buy Maker. MKR is the three-letter sort of thing for that coin. Yeah.
Would you mind, Logan, just giving me just one, and also for anybody watching who's as new to this as I am, a very simple token currency. Well, I guess I want to hear more on tokens.
Yeah.
And how that You kind of explained it, but I'd love to hear it one more time.
Okay, sure. So a token on Ethereum, well,
Can they be on any?
yeah, sure. Let's just say the general
Okay.
cryptocurrency token. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so the difference between a token and a cryptocurrency would be that a token would always be existing on a cryptocurrency. So you wouldn't, for example, Maker or Dai or Fry, the one that we're selling, those are all tokens, but you wouldn't call them cryptocurrencies because they don't really have their own blockchain. They exist on Ethereum, and Ethereum has its blockchain. Ethereum is a cryptocurrency. A token, though, is always going to be something built on top of some other cryptocurrency on smart contracts. Does that make sense so far?
It's always going to be built on top of cryptocurrency using smart contracts. So it has to be on a cryptocurrency that is smart contract enabled, like
Exactly.
Ethereum, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
does that mean you can't have a Bitcoin token?
No, you couldn't. That's a good question. Yeah, you could have you sort of can. You can have what's called wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum, and I don't know all the technicals, but it's a token on Ethereum that is supposedly backed by Bitcoin. Now, whether it actually is a different question. I've heard that it's also that it is, but it's centralized, and so you can't really count on it. If it's centralized, it might break. So maybe you have wrapped Bitcoin and then something breaks and then you find out, oh, what I have is actually worthless because I can't get the Bitcoin that was supposedly wrapped. So you can't have Bitcoin on Ethereum, but you might today or in the future have things that are pegged to Bitcoin or that almost are Bitcoin, and maybe those things can be built in such a way that they are sound. But I don't know that that's the case now, if that makes sense.
So a token exists on crypto. So it's utilizing the blockchain of the underlying,
Yeah.
or the
Yes.
like whatever crypto it's built on, but it has to be crypto that supports smart contracts.
Exactly. That's a great. I'm really glad you asked that. I hadn't even ever really had to explain or think about that before. Yeah. Yeah.
And which of the cryptos is there like some place that you can, somebody like me could like Google and be like, which cryptos exist, have smart contracts or exist? What is even the language of the relationship of the smart contract to the crypto?
Well, you can. One place you could start is you could go to coinmarketcap.com, and I'll put that in here as well. Coinmarketcap. And that will give you the top cryptocurrencies. Well, it'll get a lot of crypto. I think it's got to be over 1,000 now. They list a lot, and you can't list all of them because you can't know about all of them because anyone can make one and just never tell anybody. But they list a lot of them, and they order them by market cap, which is so that'd be a good place to start, I suppose, because Bitcoin will be first, then Ethereum. But that list will also include tokens. So, and actually now so let me just add one more term to put these all together. A cryptocurrency and a token, you could call them both coins. So you can call Ether a coin. And I'm just realizing that because this website is called Coinmarketcap, and in the wake of our just now conversation that we just had, they can call it Coinmarketcap, and they can include cryptocurrencies and tokens because they're both, you would call them coins. Bitcoin is a coin, Ether is a coin, but also so is Maker, and so is Dai, and so is Fry, the one that we've built. Those are all coins, but some of them are cryptocurrencies and some of them are tokens.
Got it. And tokens, functionally, what is the value? The value is attached to the crypto that it exists on, or like how does the value of a token change? Or
yeah, well, so it depends on the token. So basically, as long as I follow this ERC20 standard, which really just defines, okay, if you have an ERC20 token, it should be able to be sent. You should be able to find out what the balance is. It's really kind of like anything that can answer a particular kind of questions and do particular kind of actions, we'll call that a token. But beyond that, the rules can be all over the place. And so the value of a token will it'll depend on all that. It'll depend on the first question is there a fixed amount of tokens, or is it going to be growing all the time? Is it going to be growing at a stable rate, or is it like, for example, in our project, we still have a minting key for our token. Now that means that if we wanted to, of course, we'd be destroying our reputation, but we could print as many more tokens as we want. We could do that at any moment. So if we did that, that would make our token price crash. And you as a user wouldn't be able to really predict that, but that's because we have the minting key. Later, we could build systems and then that handle the token in ways we want. And then we could actually remove our minting key. And then you could, if you, I suppose, if you were to know that we did that and to know that we didn't lie about something and aren't somehow, and maybe you know that because you're a smart contract guru and you can just go look and see that we did what we say we did. And probably the tools for doing that will get easier to use as time goes on. But what I'm trying to say is the value of the token depends on the rule set you've given it. And for Maker, part of the rules is that you get the fees generated by the DAI system. And so that's why you would want to buy Maker, part of why. And then for our token, Fry, part of why you'd want to buy Fry is that we're building around it a system that should sort of autonomously decide to fund different projects that make profit and bring the profit back into the treasury. And your Fry is basically a partial ownership of that treasury. That's why you buy Fry.
And Fry is a token.
Yes, Fry is our token, yeah.
And I assume it's also because the way you just described it, that means it has to have an underlying cryptocurrency, right?
Yes.
And what is that?
Ethereum.
It's Ethereum. Okay.
Yeah.
That sort of all just started to click.
Let me just add one more connecting piece there. So I said earlier that my job is to build smart contracts and the front ends to them. So Fry is a smart contract. That's a token smart contract. So we actually built that contract. If you go to our sale, which is sale.foundrydao.com. Now, unfortunately, you won't be able to participate because you're a U.S. citizen. We've locked out all the U.S. citizens because we're afraid of the SEC, essentially, which is a whole different discussion. But
what if I join on, like if I set up a VPN?
I think our interface will detect that because we really
detect the
want
VPN.
Yeah. But you can,
like Netflix. Damn it!
I know. It really makes me mad, and I feel like I've become a little evil because I'm now doing that. But you can actually go to Uniswap, and now we aren't endorsing this, but people have put up liquidity for Fry and other tokens. So you can actually go to Uniswap and buy Fry from Uniswap, which is interesting. But sorry, that was beside the point. If you go into the sale interface, what you'll see is the interface that I've built for the smart contract, which is selling these tokens, and that sale is running 19 months. That the rule set and how the tokens get sold and the way the price is determined, that's all based on a smart contract that can create Fry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
It's becoming clear. Next steps in terms of like educating myself or other people who are curious about this token thing, and investigating more token, DeFi, all these terms, which I'm still sort of weaving into a whole picture. Where would you suggest? Is there a forum that's really good for this kind of thing? Is there one, some place that's generating content that's really accessible?
I don't really have any ready answers because I get a lot of my news from groups I'm in, like Telegram groups and WhatsApp groups. The Ethereum subreddit would be all right, although like I used to be on there all the time. When I go back there and look, I don't really find anything that's too interesting, but maybe that's just because I'm a wizened veteran and, I don't really consume the same content anymore. But I think just Googling around for those terms would be good. I bet you could find some good YouTube channels that they just explore different projects to follow, and you could follow them.
Do you know of anybody who's sort of talking about this kind of stuff, like we're talking about it,
Hmm.
whose voice do you kind of trust, whether it's podcast or otherwise, even if it's a little bit advanced?
There's a few Bitcoin podcasts. There's one called the Bitcoin Podcast, uh,
Okay.
and I don't think they focus exclusively on Bitcoin anymore. I was actually on there, I think, twice now, talking about the various things I
Woohoo!
was doing. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Um, but yeah, but other than that one, nothing really comes to mind. Once again, unfortunately.
That's okay. That's something.
Yeah, yeah.
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 Okay. Excellent. Well, if you think of any other resources that might
Uh-huh.
be voices that you personally sort of think know what they're talking about,
Hmm.
um, we'll put them in the show notes.
Yes, cool. Alrighty. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for the chat. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we'll do another one, maybe with more people and more of an exploratory kind of format. That was sort of the original idea.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Definitely. And I am going to do some more reading. So maybe we can come back, we can discuss an agenda in advance, possibly,
mm,
and with my questions.
yeah,
And we can, yeah, shape something that might be interesting to more people than just you and me, obviously.
yeah.
But thanks for your time on this one. I'm
Okay,
excited. Cool.
cool.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right.